Hello, welcome back to Kimber Reads. Today we're going to start Great Expectations by Charles Dickens. Chapter 1, Meeting by a Grave. Though I spent most of my early years here in Kent, its marshes can still frighten me. The mist makes figures and strange sounds carry over the rivers close by. It was no different that one Christmas Eve, when I was 7 years old, I was visiting my parents' graves in the churchyard on the desert marshes. I never knew my parents, so I could only read their names on the tombstones. Philip and Georgiana Para. Philip is my name too, but when I was learning to talk, I could not pronounce it, so I made it into Pip, the name I came to be called all my life. As I tried to desperately remember my parents, I began to cry. Suddenly, a terrible voice cried out, "Stop your noise or I'll cut your throat!" A huge man appeared from among the graves and seized my chin in a steely grip. He was dressed in coarse gray clothes, with an iron band clamped around one leg. He was wet and shivering and mud-stained, but his eyes brightly glared at me. I was terror-stricken. "Please, sir, don't kill me," I pleaded. "Please don't." "What's your name? Quick," he demanded. "Where do you live, you and your folks?" "Pip is my name, sir," I managed to say. "The parents are alone in the graves, and I live with my older sister, with Mrs. Joe Gargery, and her husband, the blacksmith in the village." "Blacksmith, eh?" he said, looking down at his leg. Suddenly, in one motion, he turned me upside down and emptied my pockets. A few nails and a piece of bread were all I had in them. Putting me right side up on top of a tombstone, he crammed the bread into his mouth and ate it ravenously. "Now, young villain, I'm deciding if I let you live," he said, tilting me backwards. "Do you know what a file is?" I was nodded, too frightened to speak as I clung to the tombstone. "Well, you get me one. A file and also some food. You bring them me tomorrow morning. You understand me?" Swallowing hard and I clinging to him as he tilted me even more, I said, "Yes, sir." But you tell anyone and you're a dead boy. I got a friend here who loves cutting the heart out of a young boy. That boy may think he's safe in bed, but my friends know how to sneak into a warm bed and find the boy. Remember what I say. Now go. I nodded eagerly, then jumped down and ran so fast as I could back home, my heart beating so loudly that I could hear it. But at home, there was more trouble. As I tiptoed into the kitchen, my brother-in-law, Joe, the blacksmith, shook his big blonde head at me. "Pip, where have you been?" he said. "She's been out looking for you." At that moment, the door burst open and my sister stormed in. Mrs. Joe is 20 years older than me and has a hot temper. Without a word, she managed to bang me in the head and threw me at Joe, but then Joe stepped in front of me and turned to face my sister as she rushed at me again. She tried to dodge behind Joe, but he's a giant man. Gentle, but a giant, and Joe and I turned out like the front and back ends of a horse until my sister got tired of chasing me. Joe smiled at me as soon as the danger was past, and he drew me to the warm fireplace. Above the sound of my sister slamming pots and dishes, I heard a gun in the distance. "What's that, Joe?" he whispered. "That's a warning gun from the prison ships down by the river. A convict escaped." "That's the second one. The gun fired last night, too, to warn us that a robber and murderer was on the loose." A shiver went through me at Joe's words. My sister banged on the table to indicate her impatience, and we hurried to sit down to dinner. She buttered her bread for me and Joe and handed it out. Though Joe was the provider of the bread and butter, he too was too good-natured to object to being treated like a child. While my sister complained of all the house cleaning she had been doing in preparation for a party the next day, Christmas Day, I hid my bread in my pocket in case I couldn't find anything to take from my sister's pantry. I had to be sure to have something to give my waiting convict. Since my sister never allowed me a candle to light my way in the attic room, I stumbled in the darkness that night, fearing that I too would wind up on a prison ship because of the thieving I was planning for my sister's pantry. Once in bed, I managed a young convict at the foot of my bed, ready to cut my heart. So I kept the bread clutched in my hand all night, ready to show to him. He did not come, but I kept expecting him, so I barely slept. At the first gray light of dawn, I stole downstairs. The creaking steps seemed to call, "Stop, thief!" after me, but because of the holiday season, there was much more food in the pantry than expected. I took some more bread, a hunk of cheese, a pork pie, and some brandy. This is the last I poured into an empty bottle, then refilled the brandy bottle with water to make up for what I had taken. I dared take the pork pie because it was on the back shelf, so I guess my sister did not intend to serve it soon. A door led from the kitchen to Joe's blacksmith forge. I slipped in and slept with a heavy file among Joe's tools. With all these things clutched under my jacket, I ran for the marshes through the morning mist. Okay, that's the end of that chapter. See you later.